Hello and welcome to the Elsie B. Smith Show. Our topic for today is gay but married, how my truth set me free. And my lovely guest is David Laws, all the way from Australia. David is one of 4 people in the world who does flower readings for a living. He was married with a teenage daughter and then came out as gay, and I can hear all your questions, so I will start off with a question. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elsie. What an absolute privilege and honour it is to be a part of your beautiful show, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everybody tuning in. Hello, everyone, and it is my joy to be joining you all today.
Thank you, David. Now, being gay, being married with a teenage daughter, and then having to tell the world, that must have been quite a shock. So let's turn back the clock. How was your life before coming out? How was your business life, your personal life, before you made that decision?
Well, Elsie, it was fraught with a lot of difficulty, a lot of heartache, a lot of battling that went on within my heart, and I instinctively knew that inside of myself, I knew that the real person was in there, but the real person was too afraid to literally come out and share with the world what he really was. And for a very, very long time, I knew within my heart and soul that I was a gay man. But it was something that I honestly thought, Elsie, that I would take it to my grave, because I thought, I just can't tell the world about my truth, because I lived in terror and fear of losing my family and my daughter and my friends, as a lot of people do. And it's a very daunting thing to consider having to do. And I thought about it for a very, very long time before I actually did.
So you grew up knowing that you were gay? And you got married anyway?
It's a good question, Elsie, because to me, it's a little bit of a grey area, because whilst I had those feelings and those thoughts when I was a younger man, and I can remember when I was at school, I met a couple of mates and, we mucked around with each other, as a lot of kids do when they explore their sexuality in their late teens. And I think we're too quick as a society to judge or to label people if 2 guys muck around with each other or 2 girls muck around with each other. It's like, well, you must be gay or you must be bisexual. And I think when you're in your teens, I think we're just exploring our sexuality, and we're exploring who we really are. And if somebody has a one-off fling, with somebody of the same sex, it doesn't necessarily mean that person's a gay person. It's just a normal part of what our, sexual being is. And I believe that we're all sexual beings, be that straight, gay or bisexual or what have you. We're just beautiful sexual beings. But to get into the point about, why I got married, well, even though I'd had 1 or 2 little flings with a couple of younger guys, like my age when I was that age, I still had in my heart the dream of meeting a lovely young lady and falling in love with her and marrying and having a family and living the life that I was raised in. I'm the oldest of 4 children and born to a fabulous mother and father who, afforded us a wonderful upbringing of love and joy and support. So there was never any problem there, and that's what I wanted to emulate. And I was the oldest of the 4, and I thought, well, I'd like to meet somebody and do the same. And that's exactly what happened, for me also, because I met Lisa when I was 23 and she was 21, and we fell madly in love, and I didn't even have an inkling of a thought that I was doing the wrong thing, and I didn't feel as if I was lying to her or deceiving her in any way, because I thought, you're the lady I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
So we got married, and for the first, the first 5-6 years of our married life was quite normal, in the sense we had a normal sex life, we had the normal attractions and the normal things that one does when they marry. And it was a great life. But it was around the time that Lisa fell pregnant with our daughter that things started to change with me a little.
And in what sense did things change for you?
Okay. The way that it changed for me, I actually met a guy who was actually one of my clients, and he was around the same age as me, and he was exactly like me. He was married with a couple of children, and I'd known this guy for probably, I guess a year or 2, and he'd never presented as anything other than being a man who was like me, a happily married man, and he was a businessman like I was, and we had like a business friendship. We were never close mates. But basically what happened, he invited me to pop around and have a coffee with him one day after hours to have a bit of a chinwag. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll pop in and have a chat. And I had never suspected that he had any other motive other than wanting me to pop in and have a chat. But, of course, it became patently obvious that he was interested in me sexually. And at first, when he propositioned me, I sort of reeled back in shock a little bit, and for a moment I thought, my God, I think this guy might be trying to out me, because he didn't present as somebody who was attracted in the same sex. He presented as a man who was a blokey bloke, like a man's man, and somebody who you would never have guessed that he was secretly gay. But the long story short of it was that, once I'd sort of recoiled from that, and I could tell that he was nervous, and he was the one who had a lot to risk, I guess, because if I could have thwarted his advances and I could have pulled the pin on his life and said, well, hey, so it was a risk for him, perhaps a bigger risk for him than me, because he was the one who was approaching me. But the long story short was that we instigated an affair, and that affair carried on for some time. And the frustrating thing and the painful thing for me, Elsie, at that point, was that I immediately knew that that's what my truth was inherently within me. I thought, you know what? The more I got together with this fellow, I call him Craig, but Craig's not his real name. But when I got together with Craig, it was just I felt complete. I just felt complete sexually, physically, and he just completed many things for me. And unfortunately, whilst I had that completion within me, that's when the battle started, because I was a married man who loved his wife and loved his daughter and loved his life. And so did Craig. Craig loved his family. He loved everything in life. So we didn't really want to change anything. We didn't want to upheave our families and go through all the pain of separating just to be together. We didn't need to be together, but we just needed to meet up on a regular basis to address our needs. That's what we did.
But that must have been devastating for you as a person, to be happy with him, go away from him, be happy with your wife, and you were living a double life. I'm sure it would have had been stressful health impact.
Sorry?
It must have had the impact on your health, because it must have been so stressful.
It did. It paid. I paid a bit. Well, when I say I paid a big price, the emotional upheaval that I went, the breakdown that I had around about 10 years ago, I just went through a complete mental, emotional breakdown around the time our marriage ended. A lot of people said, gee, it's great that you've come out now. That's a relief for you. Well, you know what? It was a relief, Elsie, but I tell you what, the pain and the anguish that followed, that was for me and for Lisa, of course, was devastating, because I lost all sense of who I was, and instead of celebrating my newfound truth in the initial times there, I was lost. I was a lost, broken soul, because my marriage was over, family life was over, and Lisa and our daughter Alexandra mentioned, they said to me, look, we'd rather move back to Sydney, where we came from, and we don't want to live here anymore, up in Queensland, up in the northern part of Australia. And I knew that they had to go back home, because that's what they wanted to do. I didn't stand in their way. I was devastated that my daughter moved away, but she said, I need to be with Mum, and she was 12 years old at the time. I said, honey, I totally understand that. So the girls left, and just after that, business went bad for me. I lost everything. I was just a broken man. Everything was gone, and I was stripped to the very core of my soul. So that's where I had to rebuild my life from.
So how did you approach your wife and tell her, it's over, I'm gay?
Well, honey, that's a good question, because unfortunately it didn't quite happen that way. It was because I'll tell you why. I'll give you a little bit of a background to it. Lisa had mentioned to me a few times, she said, because she knew that the physical side of our marriage had declined markedly. And let me tell you, my beautiful former wife, her and I still remain very close friends to this day, thank God. But her and I, we had always been attracted to each other. But she said, David, what's going on? Like, I was always the one that had the proverbial headache, and I was the one who wasn't feeling up to having sex and all these sorts of things, whereas she's like, what's going on? And then her girlfriends often said to her, are you sure Dave's not gay? Because, Lisa, you're so attractive and such a beautiful soul. And, my ex-wife could have easily been a model. But anyway, that was the thing. I was always living in denial, that famous river in Egypt. So
yeah.
I was living in denial. And I just kept, feigning, excuses and what have you. And she knew deep down. And a couple of times she said to me, if I find out you're gay, I will absolutely take you to the cleaners and I will do this and I will do that. And she struck the terror of God into me because God loved her. She was frustrated. She was trying to find an answer to why our marriage was not succeeding in that way. And back then we were doing very well in business, and I would shower her with beautiful gifts, and I'd shout her a brand new car once a year. I'd take her on overseas trips, and I just poured gifts into her, showered her with love and affection. But she said, honey, these things don't mean anything to me. I need you. I want you. And that was the one thing that I couldn't give. So to answer your question, honey, the way that it all happened, it was, I can tell you, it was on the 3rd of June, 2007, the day my life changed. It's the day that one life ended and another one began.
Okay.
And it was a Sunday night, I remember clearly. And we had lived separate lives. We were living separate lives at that stage. We had separated. And whilst we were still living under the same roof, we lived in separate parts of the house, and I had my life and she had her life. And this particular Sunday night, she'd gone to bed about 9 o'clock, and I stayed up watching telly. And then I went back, retreated back to my part of the house, and I lived in the master bedroom, and I had an office attached to the master bedroom. I had my office in there, my computer and everything else. And that particular night, I'd done some emails and was checking through some things, and then a link came up to a gay dating site. And I thought, oh, wow, I wonder, what that's all about. So I clicked onto the gay dating site, and it was on the screen, and I was just checking through all the guys who were dating, and all of a sudden the door opened behind me, and Lisa switched the light on, and she said, I caught you. She said, I had it all planned. And I thought, oh, my God. I was trying to quickly close the screen off, and she said, I just saw you on a gay dating site, David. She said, it's all over.
Yeah.
And of course I broke down and cried. She broke down and cried, and that was life was over. And for the next 12 hours, I had no idea where I stood because she was just too upset to speak. She said, "Don't touch me, don't speak to me, don't come near me. I've just got to go and I've got to figure out what I need to do now." And I thought, oh my God! So my life was it was very much. It was in the balance for those next 9 hours, because I thought, oh my God, this will either kill me or it'll make me a better person.
Yeah.
But
And then you decided to get divorced.
Yeah, basically what happened, it was a truly beautiful thing that Lisa did. Pardon me, I remember we dropped our daughter to school the next morning. She was oblivious to what had happened the night before. We'd sat up the whole night. I was in my bedroom. She was down in the lounge room. We were both crying and sobbing the whole night. We were an absolute disaster zone in the morning. But we got our daughter up. We had a shower and tried to freshen ourselves up and look presentable. And we got her dressed and fed and taken to school. And as soon as we dropped her off at school, I thought, this is my moment of absolution. This is where I will receive the verdict of where my life is going to go, because my life was in her hands. And we both had our dark sunglasses on, and I said, what would you like to do? And she said, I'd like to go down to let's find a coffee shop and we'll talk. So we drove down near the beach and we stopped at a coffee shop and we sat there, Elsaby, and we stirred our coffee and I let her speak. And you know what she said to me? It was, oh my gosh, I can only tell you now without bursting into tears. It was so beautiful. She said, I guess you heard me sobbing all night. And I said, yes, I did, honey. And she said, well, I heard you crying as well. She said, this is bad for both of us. I said, I know it is. And she said something I'll never forget. She said, I tried deep within my heart to find something last night to hate you for, and I can't find anything in my heart. I just can't find anything to hate you for, David. I just wish I could, but I can't.
What
it's
a
not who I am,
beautiful spirit.
and it's not who you are.
Yeah.
So, of course, that let the waterworks off for me.
I can imagine.
And then we decided then at that point that we would take the long process of starting to, put the divorce in place, and we agreed that it would be probably an 18-month journey to get divorced because, we hit the rocks financially. That was before I really hit the rocks financially, but things had started to go bad. So for financial reasons, we stuck together, which thankfully wasn't such a bad thing, and particularly for our daughter because she still had mum and dad there, even though she was quite aware that we had separated, and we made it plain and clear that we had separated, although we hadn't told her at that stage what the reason was.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And then you still had to tell your daughter not only that you were going to get divorced.
Oh my God, that was the big coming out. I mean, any person that has been in my shoes knows what a terrifying and daunting prospect it is to come out to your loved ones because you don't know what the reaction's going to be, whether they're going to accept you or whether they're going to discard you. And I had met a few guys exactly like me who had come out, and some men had lost everyone. They'd lost their kids, lost their families, lost their friends. And I had in my mind all these people earmarked, and I thought if I lose any of these people, I seriously, and particularly my daughter, I thought if I lose my daughter, I would consider taking my life because I just couldn't imagine having a life without my daughter in it. It's as plain and simple as that. But anyway, it was around 6 months after I came out to Lisa that I said to Lisa, it's time for me to come out to the world now. I need to tell the world. She said, you're right. And I said, sweetheart, we have to tell Alexandra first because if my daughter finds out before I tell her about me, I will never forgive myself.
Indeed. And
it'll be the most horrific thing. So at this point, you're the only person in the world that knows that I'm gay. So I'm going to tell her tonight and we were due to fly to Sydney the next day. And that was what I call my big outing. Because I contacted all my family and friends, or all of our family and friends, both my in-laws as well as my own family, and said I need to come to Sydney and talk to you all. So before we did that, I sat her down, and I'll never forget it, Elsie. We sat there on the lounge that night, and she was just eating an ice cream. She was 12 years old, and she had her legs sitting across mine, and we're sitting there. And anyway, I was stroking her leg, and we held the TV was off. We had the candles on and some soft music, and she knew something was up, and she turned to us both and said, so what do you want to tell me, Mum and Dad? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I stroked her leg and I said, sweetheart, you know that Mum and Dad are divorcing. And she said, yes, I know that. And I said, but you don't know the reason why. And I said, I'm here to tell you why. It's all because of me. And she said, why, Dad? And I said, honey, I'm gay. And I said, I've known that I've been gay for a long time, and Mum knows that I'm gay, and it's time for me to tell the world. Do you know what else to be? She sat up, she leant across and put her arm around my neck, and she said, Dad, it's okay. It's quite okay. She said, you didn't choose to be like this. It's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
And I went, are you serious? And Lisa burst into tears. I burst into tears. And anyway, she's sitting there with this grin on her face. And anyway, Lisa came over and hugged her. And she said, and Lisa said, oh, honey, I want to tell you something too. And she said, oh, Mum, don't tell me you're gay as well. And she said, no, darling. She said, Dad and I just want to tell you how much we love you. And she said, I'm here to tell you that I'm supporting your dad on his journey. I support him. I want you to support him if you feel you want to. And, we're just going to work through this. And I said, well, sweetheart, we're flying to Sydney tomorrow, and this is the reason why we're flying down, because I need to tell the world. It's time for me to come out and tell everyone that I'm gay. And she said, well, Dad, you'll always have my love and support because I love you. Yeah.
It just shows you children accept, they don't judge. We teach them to judge.
Elsie, we should never underestimate our kids. And I'll tell you what, for any of your beautiful listeners that are tuning in and listening to this or watching this, guys, if any of you are going through what I've been through, and are battling your sexuality, and you have children, and you mortally terrified about what the outcome can be, all I will tell you is this: do not underestimate the wisdom and the maturity of your children. And
Indeed.
Of course that's depending on how old they are as well. Younger children, it's different, but my daughter was at the brink of teenagehood, and she has a great understanding, and she's a very switched-on little soul. She's a young married lady now, so she's in her early 20s and happily married and has got a beautiful life. And her and I couldn't possibly be closer. We speak every day, so it's wonderful.
And then you had to go and tell your parents.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was the next bottle of bourbon. And I'll never forget, I had told my siblings, my 3 younger siblings, and my sister and 2 brothers, and the 3 of them were very accepting. And when I told my sister, I said, honey, I just don't know how you're going to accept this. And she said, what? And I said, look, I'm gay, and she laughed and she said, honey, didn't you get the memo? She said, I could have told you before you knew. I said, oh, really? She said, oh, for God's sake. She said, I think we all knew that you were secretly gay. So she said, of course you have our love and blessings. And then I told my younger brother that my parents were going up to visit him just about 2 hours north of where I live. And they had been travelling around quite a bit, and I knew that they were coming to stay with my brother. And I rang my brother and I said, I'm coming up to tell Mum and Dad my truth. And he said, oh, mate, don't do that. He said, God, it'll wreck their life, and just keep it amongst ourselves. You don't want to tell them at their age, because they were both 70 at the time. And I don't know how they're going to cope with it. I said, Trev, they need to know. Everyone needs to know. And do you know what? I'm making it business of mine to tell everybody face to face. I'm not ringing everyone. Every person I tell, I want to go and meet with them. Or if I have to travel, I don't care. I'll go and meet with them so that I can meet them face to face and tell them. And that way, if they want to abuse me or if they want to chip me or whatever they want to say, I'll cop it on the chin. I'm man enough to cop it. I'll cop it. I'm ready for it.
Indeed.
Anyway, this particular night, I'll never forget. It was the night that I told my parents. It was the 13th of December in 2009. That's when it was. I remember it. 2000. No, I beg your pardon. It was 2008.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was when it was. I'll never forget. And I left here, and Lisa said, would you like me to travel with you to see your mum and dad so that they can see how much that I support you? I said, no, honey, this is a trip I need to do on my own.
Indeed.
But thanks anyway. Do you know, Elsevier, it was so ironic. I left here late in the afternoon to drive 2 hours north to where mum and dad were staying with my brother and sister-in-law. And halfway during the trip, an almighty God thunderstorm rolled in, a massive tropical thunderstorm, because I live in the subtropics here. Yeah. And the rain was so heavy, no one could drive. We had to stop the cars on the side of the road. And I took it as a metaphor for all the tears that were about to fall just up the road. Oh, goodness,
yeah.
And I sat there and I started to cry, and I couldn't drive because I was crying and the rain was pouring down. And I thought, I don't know if I'm going to make the trip. But anyway, within a few minutes, the heavy downpour had subsided a little and we were able to make headway. And I travelled up to where my brother lived, and just before I got to his place, I called into a bottle shop and grabbed a bottle of bourbon and a couple of bottles of Big Coke, because my brother and I both don't mind a little drop of bourbon. So I went round and knocked on the door, and my brother answered the door, and he nearly died of shock, and he went, oh, my God, what are you doing here? Because I'm 2 hours away from home. And I said, I'm here to see Mum and Dad. And he knew what that meant.
Yeah.
And he looked at the bottle of bourbon. He said, is that bourbon for me or for you? I said, it's for both of us. He said, well, come on in. And my parents were so shocked, and they went, oh, my God, what are you doing here? Wow, you've driven, what are you doing up here? And I said, oh, I just thought I'd pop up and say hello. And they said, pop up and say hello? That's a 2 hour drive for you, and 2 hour drive home. I said, well, that's the way it is. And Mum said, what are you here to do? I said, I'm here to have a chat to you and Dad. And they knew it was something fairly serious, because Trevor had already poured a bourbon and handed it to me. And he poured himself one. And I said, you guys just finish your dinner and I'll tell you after dinner. So when dinner was cleared, they looked at me and they said, so what's going on? And I said, well, guys, you know that Lisa and I have separated. And Mum said, well, I've heard the rumour that you've separated, but I've not had a chance to ask you why, or to ask what's going on. I said, well, I'm here to tell you the reason why. And I sat there and I said, guys, I'm gay. I said, it's been very hard for me to come to terms with this, and it's pain for me to tell you this, but the truth is I'm gay. My father, Elsevier, oh my God, my father got up from the lounge. He was sitting over on the lounge and I was sitting on the dining room chair. He stood up, he walked across to where I was sitting. I stood up and he embraced me. He embraced me tightly. He kissed me on the cheek And he just said, mate, it's okay. It is quite okay. And I have to tell you, Elsaby, my father he used to play football, drink beer at the pub with his mates, an absolute man's man, a real blokey bloke. You couldn't get a more earthy country man, a real country boy.
Yeah.
And I don't think Dad's ever met a gay person in his life that I'm aware of. So the whole gay thing was very new to him, but I didn't know how he would accept it. And you know what he said to me? He just looked at me after he hugged me, and he said, mate, how long have you been battling this? And I said, Dad, I've been battling this for many years, for a long, 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 long time. And he said, well, mate, it's okay. He said, from my perspective, he said, you won't have any judgment from me. And then I gave Mum a hug, and Mum had a few tears, and I said, how are you? Mum said, I'm fine. She said, how are you? And I said, well, look, I'm in a lot of shock and a lot of, trepidation. I can't believe I'm telling you this, and I can't believe that this is unfolding, but this is the reality. And then Dad turned to me and he said, how have the girls accepted it? Like, my wife and daughter. And I told them, I said, look, Lisa is known for 6 months, and we've just told Alexandra just recently, and that's all good, and they're accepting of me. And I said, we're just working out the terms of our divorce and how we can move on in our life, because inevitably we can't remain married for obvious reasons. You can't even go to counselling. You can't even go and make a marriage work. When it's a situation of same-sex attraction, it's over.
Yeah.
The physical life the physical relationship is over. So, and that's all there is to it. And anyway, they were very embracing. But I have to tell you something is very interesting, because I couldn't wait to ask Mum and Dad. I said, have you guys ever suspected that I was ever gay? Did you ever suspect that even an inkling? And my father said, not the slightest hint. He said, I would never have imagined in a million years that you were gay. But he said, if you're gay, you're gay, and I'm prepared to accept that. And my mother said something really fascinating. She said, honey, I have to tell you, I never suspected you were gay except for one occasion only. And I said, when was that? She said, you won't believe when it was, and it was a really weird thing. And I said, what? She said, it was the night that you and Lisa came around to our place, and you walked up our stairs up into our living area, and you had a huge big bottle of champagne with big grins on your faces. And you said, you've got a very exciting announcement to make. And that was the night that we announced that Lisa was pregnant with our daughter.
Yeah.
And she said, as soon as you both said that, this voice came into my head and said, how could Lisa be pregnant? David's gay.
My goodness.
And she said, where the hell? She thought to herself, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
She said, I never thought it before, and I've never thought it since. But it's like, how could Lisa be pregnant when David's gay?
My
so
goodness.
She said, that's the only time in my life, David, that I've ever suspected or ever thought, and where the thought crossed my mind that you might be gay.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. My love, fascinating. Yeah.
And how many friends did you lose because of your this decision? Well, it wasn't really a decision.
I tell you what, I only lost one friend. And unfortunately, it was one of my longest standing friends. In fact, we've been friends since kindergarten at school. Yeah. And he was my lifelong friend. And very sadly, I did lose his friendship. But it's so funny because I actually had to ring him to tell him what had happened, because he lived a long, long way away from where I was. And I think he was probably the only person that I wasn't able to sit down and tell in person because of the tyranny of distance and time. But I rang him up and told him, and he was quite good. He said, David, congratulations. Wow. He said, gee, that must be a weight off your mind. And I said, oh, mate, it is a weight off my mind. And he said, how have people accepted it? And I said, mate, everyone has accepted it without exception. I haven't lost any friends. I've lost no family members. I said, even my in-laws have taken me under the wing and accepted it and just said, look, it's sad what's happened, but you're a lovely person, David. You're a lovely guy. You work with your heart. You've got good intent, and you wouldn't be doing this to try and hurt someone. It's just who you are. Anyway, so I thought that all went rather well, and we had a bit of a chinwag about it, and that was all that. And then 2 days later, Elsaby, he rang me. Honestly, I thought there'd been a death in the family. And he said, oh, David, he said, I had to ring you. He said, got something terrible to tell you. And I said, what? I said, what's wrong? I said, has something happened in the family? He said, no. I said, mate, what's the problem? And he said, David, the problem's you. And I immediately knew.
Yeah.
And I said, the problem's me. Why is that? Now, I won't name what religion it is, but he's a very religious man, and he belongs to a very, very well-known church. And he said, because of your choice to come out as a gay man, and because you choose to be gay, I cannot be seen, and my church can't be seen to condone your lifestyle choice.
Oh.
And I said, I'll call him Ian, because that's not his real name. But I said, Ian, do you think it's a choice, do you? Do you think I chose to upheave my family? Do you think the heartache and the drama and the pain, the anguish that I've been battling and suffering for all these years, do you think it's as simple as a choice? And he said, well, according to what God says in the Bible. And I said, mate, please keep God and the Bible out of this. I'm not interested.
Yeah,
I said, if you're not prepared to accept me as the person that I am, because I said, you know what, Ian, I'll tell you something. The person that I am now is the person you grew up with, the person we used to go out and drink with, the person we used to go out and date girls with and dance with, all the parties, all the fun. Oh, that's the same guy. I'm the same person.
Yeah.
But if you think I've changed, I'm a different person, mate, that's where you've got it all wrong. And he said, well, very sadly, I can't be seen to, that's what he kept saying, I can't be seen to condone the friendship. I said, well, Ian, that's your choice, friendship, my friend, that's your choice. And you know what he said to me? He said, can I have your address, please? And I said, what for? He said, because I want to send you some books. And I said, what sort of books? And he said, they're books that will help you. And I said, mate, I know what books you're going to send me. I don't need your help. I said, I have done so much work on myself personally. I've spent so much money on personal development. I've done courses, I've done training, and you know what? For the first time in my life, I'm flying free now. And I don't know. I don't fine. I said, no, there's nothing to change me for, because why change? I can't change you, and you can't change me. I said, what you don't understand, Ian, mate, is that you have as much say in choosing your sexuality as you do the colour of your eyes when you're born.
Exactly.
You've got blue eyes or brown eyes. That's what they are. You can deny it as much as you like, but it is what it is.
Exactly. From where I'm sitting, that choice, that decision to be gay or not gay, is something you make before you even get born. Like I chose to have green eyes.
Right.
Like I chose to have green eyes, and like I chose to spend a part of my life living in England, and like I chose to be a heterosexual woman in this life. I don't know what I'm going to do in the next one. That's a different life script.
Yeah, that's exactly right, hon. Now come and join us. It's a hell of a party.
Indeed. So after this massive emotional turning point and telling everybody, this is who I am, this is how my life is changing, how did your life actually change?
Well, initially it changed for the worse, for the much worse, because not long after the girls packed up and moved back to Sydney to live, we had only just recently moved to the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is in southeast Queensland, which is the northern part of Australia. Most of your listeners might be familiar with where Queensland is. And we're almost on the border of New South Wales and Queensland. I mean, the state border is only about 30 minutes south of where I live, so I'm right at the southern tip of Queensland. Anyway, I just lost my train there. What was that?
We were talking about the massive change.
How my life changed. Yep. Yeah. So anyway, the girls moved back to Sydney, and it wasn't long after they moved back to Sydney that everything crashed and crumbled around me. The business venture that I was involved in went bad. I made some really bad investment choices. The global financial crisis had hit, and I was heavily invested in some major investments that, high risk, but they were paying very well at the time. But I lost everything, so I lost close on $1 million, of my personal worth. Anyway, being stripped of your home. Well, first of all, I was stripped of my family and my marriage. Then I was stripped of my home, stripped of my house and my car. Everything was repossessed. Everything was gone. All I had left was a few clothes in the cupboard, and I think around about $37 or around £15 in your money, around £15 in my wallet, and that was it. and I was 49 years old, and I thought, I'm finished, I'm washed up, I've got nothing to contribute.
Yeah.
This is it. It's the end of my life. I had no business. I've been in business, self-employed for about, that stage, around about 15, 16 years. So I had no interest in trying to, work for somebody else and just get a pay packet. I thought, I just can't do it. I'm just so independent.
Yeah.
But of course, I had no money to start a business. Luckily, whilst I'd lost everything, I wasn't in massive debt. I mean, some people go broke and they've got hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars in debt. Luckily for me, I didn't have any debt, but I had nothing. I just had nothing to scrape by. And anyway, a friend of mine took me in not far from down here, and she said, look, just stay in my room and camp here as long as you need to. And once you find, a means of an income, you can just start to pay me a little bit of rent or what have you. I couldn't even, honey, it was just so soul destroying to think going from almost being a millionaire or, having $1 million and having a fabulous life to having nothing.
Yeah.
And coming home to like a bedroom in a friend's house. You don't even come home to a wife or a daughter or a family or sit down and have a family meal anymore. It was just like I'd landed on another planet, and I'm just thinking, this can't be my life. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I lived with this lovely friend of mine for a year, got back on my feet, but in that time, I felt my calling, and my calling was my spirituality, my spiritual side, and I'd been begging and praying to the universe for a signal or a sign or an inkling or a feeling about what I should be doing, and the little voice just came to my head and said, are you ready? And I thought, ready for what? What are you talking about? Am I ready?
And who are you?
And this is where the other side of my life comes in, because most of your listeners, or perhaps if not all of your listeners, don't know that I'm, a professional psychic. So it is, a psychic is my full-time profession. I'm a professional psychic. I've been full-time now for, around about 8 years now, and it's my chosen profession.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, it's always been under my nose, because I've known for probably the same time that I knew I was gay. I always knew I had a psychic gift and ability, but never would I have ever considered that it would be a gift or a talent that would, lead me into a full-time profession. I thought, oh gosh, there's a million people out there way more gifted and talented than I am. But the long and the short of it was, as I heard in your beautiful introduction before as you were introducing me today, Elsaby, you mentioned to your listeners that I read flowers. And I psychically read flowers. It's the gift of what I refer to as psychometry, intuition, and spiritual guidance. And I'm one of 4 people in the world that read flowers for a full-time living. Not that there's anything grand or wonderful about that. It's just that it's my chosen modality. But it's not a very commonly known modality. Yeah. But essentially, I get a group of people together, and around this time when my life had crashed and crumbled, a lady rang me out of the blue. She just rang me out of the blue and said, would you be interested in doing a flower reading for a few of my friends if I get them together? And I said, oh, honey, I don't know if I can. I said, I think the bank has repossessed that gift as well, and they took everything else. And she laughed, and she said, don't be silly. She said, listen, I know you're doing it really tough at the moment, and you might do well to put a few dollars in your pocket and have some fun. And I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I went around to her place. It was a Thursday night, and I think she'd had 8 or 9 people there. And anyway, I sat down and did the readings, and thank God the readings and the messages came through were superlative, and everyone was suitably impressed and blown away. And 3 of the ladies there that were at my friend's place that night said, do you have a card? And I said, no, I don't. Why? And they said, well, we would like to book you for our friends. And I went, really? Are you sure? And they said, yeah. Anyway, they did that, but guess what? That one party I did was the first party I did, honey, and I've not stopped working since.
Goodness.
And and it's, I mean, in that time, in the ensuing 7 years after that, I have literally read for thousands and thousands of people. So it's just been crazy. And luckily, I have a very high profile here in this part of the world. I'm very proud of the image that I have out there for my beautiful work, for my groundedness, my earthiness, my realness, and my humour, my wicked humour, as you witnessed in my Facebook posts sometimes. So that's and today, as I sit here and speak to you now, I know I shouldn't be moving the camera around, but I'll just show you. I've got this stunning brand new apartment.
A beautiful, beautiful
it's a
place.
magnificent place.
Space.
And luckily, well, I won't say luckily, but fate had it that this is what I manifested for myself. It's my beautiful new home.
Yeah.
And this is where I live. And the lady that I bought this apartment from actually came to see me for a reading 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so Spirit actually brought the apartment to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then she invited me around here one day for lunch on Australia Day in 2015. I arrived here at 11 o'clock in the morning for lunch, and by 4:30 that afternoon I owned the apartment. Oh, the champagne was good that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from losing absolutely everything, being stripped to David and nobody else, nothing else, and having your back against the wall, what I can see here in front of me, what I can hear is happy, honest David.
100%. Actually, no, 1,000%. 1,000%. I possibly haven't been happier, haven't been more contented, more fulfilled, or more joyous about who I am, about where I am in my life. The joy, the laughter that I bring into people's lives is something that I get paid very well for. I love and adore what I do, and so many people compliment me on my beautiful work. And I'm thrilled to know that I've touched many thousands of lives in that time. And little did I realise, Elsaby, that all of the dramas, all of the heartaches, all of the teardrops, all of the heartbreak that I went through in the past was all preparing me to do what I do today.
Indeed.
It now gives me license, my darling. It gives me license to look into your eyes and say, do you know what, honey? It must be tough for you. I don't know what you're going through, but I understand and I appreciate what you're going through. And here's the good news. There is blue sky at the end of the storm. All the storms always clear to a blue sky in almost every case.
Indeed.
I make my living fully on the spiritual path that I've embarked upon. It's incredibly rewarding for both sides, because my clients get an awful lot out of what I do, and I get an awful lot out of what they give back to me. I actually had a workshop here in my apartment last night. I had 12 people here last night, and I do teaching. So I teach a lot of the spiritual path and the spiritual way, the spiritual law, universal law, and just share a lot of stories and anecdotes of my own experiences and how it's enhanced my life. And oh my gosh, no, I wanted to go home last night because it was so much fun. All of my teachings, all of my workshops are interjected with a lot of laughter.
Indeed.
So there's lots and lots of laughter, and I've received 2 messages today from 2 of my workshop attendees from last night, and they said, we are so disappointed to know that the workshops are coming to an end in the next few weeks. We just can't, we're not going to survive without coming along to our Tuesday night or our Wednesday nights, whatever. What is it today? Thursday. So so it's really good. Yeah.
And if people want to contact you, they can do it through your Facebook page, of which I will provide the name on the video, which is David Law's Famous Flower Man.
Yeah, that's me. It should be Infamous Flower Man.
Well, from some of your postings, yes, it should be infamous.
Absolutely, my darling, absolutely. But the one thing that I guess I would encourage all of you beautiful people tuning into this, please, please, please have the courage to live your beautiful truth, whatever that may be. I don't necessarily mean it sexually. You might be someone who is a frustrated artist or a frustrated singer, or somebody who needs, but I feel I need to do this, but I feel I should be doing that. Focus on that word feel. How do you feel about your life? Because if you don't feel aligned, if you don't feel happy, if you don't feel in tune with what you should be doing, it's time to start delving into what that should be and have the courage to face it, do it, and be it. And when you do, I've taken the leap. I took the leap off the cliff, as they say, and it was almost forced upon me. But having taken that leap, it was like, oh my God, because I'll tell you something else, Abby. The one thing that I've discovered that on my journey, so many people, in fact, every person without exception they virtually shrugged their shoulders when I told them. They'd shrugged their shoulders and said, "So what, you're gay? That's no relevance to us at all.
Wonderful.
You are just a beautiful soul. You're a loving soul. You're full of laughter. You're full of joy, and you're a great person to be with and to be around. And we want to hang around you like we don't give a rat's whether you're gay, straight, bi or purple or yellow or got two heads. We don't care. It's of no relevance to us."
Yeah.
And seriously, that's how it should be. If humanity, had the decency to treat their fellow humans that way, we transform the planet overnight. If everyone could just accept who they are, because it's of no relevance to us.
Indeed.
It's of no relevance to me, my darling, how you live your life or how you choose to live your life. It's of no relevance. But if you treat me with love, compassion, decency, and respect, guess what, honey? That's all you can expect back from me.
Indeed.
That's all you'll get back from me,
Yeah.
Simple, basic spiritual laws.
Absolutely. David, thank you. This has been absolutely incredibly inspiring. I had to swallow back the tears a few times, and I'm sure some of my viewers will do the same. But it is just such a heartfelt story. Live your truth, no matter what the consequences, and the consequences will be absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. I really enjoy talking to you.
Yep. Thank you, Elsa. Be an absolute privilege, my darling, and thank you so much for your very kind, warm invitation. And I send my love and hugs to you and all of your beautiful listeners that are tuning in, and wherever you are in the world, guys, please feel my love and hugs wrapped tightly around you, and a special thought to all of our beautiful friends in London with all of the traumas that are taking place over there at the moment.
Yes.
I wish you all very, very, very well, and I hope to goodness that you're all sitting under a nice big air conditioner right now.
That's not the British style.
Yeah, they tell me the British are hot.
Indeed, yes, but they don't know how to cope with summer. Thank you so much, David.
You're welcome, darling. God's blessings to you and everyone.
Thank you. I will see you next week, Sunday, 4 p.m. British time, same place, same time, and we will have another interesting topic. Thank you and goodbye.